A group of local protesters is taking the Secret Service and local law enforcement to the nation's highest court.
This is over some claims that their First Amendment rights were violated. Newswatch 12's Justin Bork joins us live in Ashland, where supporters are just wrapping up a meeting and gearing up for the final step in a 10-year legal battle.
Well, Ashley, I'll provide some context for this case. The Supreme Court case stems from a 2004 visit from then-President George W. Bush to Southern Oregon. Bush is grabbing dinner at the Jacksonville Inn, and an anti-Bush protest, a peaceful planned protest outside, was pushed back from police and ended in a confrontation. Now, I'm here with Michael Moss, one of the plaintiffs in the case, and also one of the protesters out at that demonstration. Michael, you mentioned to me earlier that there was a point during the demonstration that things took a turn for the worse and started to get dark. Describe that moment.
So we had gathered there in Jacksonville. It was a really nice event, multi-generational protest. There was, young kids and grandparents there. And at one point, a armored personnel carrier turned that street in Jacksonville, turned onto California Street, and there was 15 cops hanging off this armored personnel carrier. There was a helicopter buzzing overhead. It was clear that the protest, or at least the interplay between the police and the protesters, had taken a really dark turn.
Now, I understand things did get somewhat violent. You personally got shot in the back. Can you describe that?
Yeah, certainly. At a certain point, the police decided they were going to move the crowd of protesters. They began marching on this crowd of protesters. An old man got knocked down. I stepped over him to help him back to his feet, and at that point, with my back to the advancing police, one of the police opened fire and hit me with, I believe, 7 pepper balls, hard plastic rounds full of capsicum in the back, at probably 5 to 8 feet range.
Now, it's been a decade since this incident happened, going from one court to another now at the Supreme Court. After 10 years, why are you guys still fighting this?
Well, we're fighting this because, our First Amendment rights are incredibly important. Our freedom of speech and freedom to assemble are something that we have to defend at all costs in this country. We put a really a high mark on the Constitution, and especially the First Amendment. And when our First Amendment rights are stepped on by the hands of police unjustly, it's really, really important that we hang in there and say that's not acceptable.
All right, well, thank you very much, Michael. And this Supreme Court case is scheduled for March 26th in Washington, D.C. Now, they're not looking at whether or not First Amendment rights are violated. They're merely looking at whether or not the protesters have a right to defend this case. So the ACLU says it could go on for quite some time. Live in Ashland, Justin Bork, Newswatch 12.